My name is Tom Martin. I'll be presenting the webinar today. Joining me is Roxanne Brown from Professional Business Solutions for You. Say hello, Roxanne.
Hi, everyone.
We're going to be talking today about Communique for Amazon Seller Central. It's a brand new tool designed specifically to help you reconcile, settle, and work with your orders from Amazon Seller Central. So let's go ahead and get started. Next slide. Okay, so things to remember for today's presentation. Use the Communications tab to submit questions or communicate problems. We will conduct a Q&A at the end of the webinar, so you can keep your questions for then. If using audio through GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar for best results, close email, messenger, or any program which uses bandwidth. Today's presentation is being recorded, and we will have it posted up on our website probably by tomorrow latest. Now, let me talk about a data disclaimer here, okay? In order for us to provide the presentation today, we are using real-world, real scenario type data, but it's been obfuscated so that it doesn't point to a particular merchant or anything like that. So what we will be showing you are real-world problems and showing you how you can identify those with Communique for Seller Central and help you to try and rectify some of these data issues. Okay, so let's go to the next tab. All right, so today's agenda, we'll be talking about...
I'm not seeing the next page. I still see the first slide.
Okay, so let's see.
There you go.
Okay, good. All right. All right, so for today's agenda, we'll be talking about Communique for Amazon Seller Central. We'll be looking at some of the dashboards, the settlements, the reconciliation. We'll be talking about the accounting summary and some of the accounting implications for that. We'll discuss the orders, the buyers, products, FBA data sync, and a lot more. So before we get started, let me turn this over to Roxanne. Roxanne's got a few things she'd like to explain to us.
All right, cool. Thanks, Tom. Thanks for inviting me. And thanks, everyone, for attending today. You're going to be surprised at how cool this program is. So a little bit of background. My name is Roxanne Brown, Professional Business Solutions. The website is consultingforqb.com. I've been a bookkeeper for 35-plus years. I've been a certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor since the inception of the program back in '99. And I've been working with e-commerce clients in particular since '98, '99 timeframe. It's great. It's never dull. It's always changing. I'm always on the lookout for different tools or programs that will make the accounting aspect of running an e-commerce business, easier for my clients. An e-commerce business owner in particular faces a lot of different challenges. They're usually the jack of all trades. They're trying to manage everything from website design to pick, pack, and ship, customer service, inventory, and of course accounting. Can't forget that. In the last couple of years, merchants selling on Amazon Seller Central or participating in Amazon FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon if you've never heard that term before. Both of these has been increasing over the years. A few years ago, people selling on the marketplaces, that was still a relatively new concept. But the last 2 years, definitely there's been a shift in the industry. So if you're selling on any of the marketplaces, the profit margins tend to be very, very tight. They're a lot slimmer than maybe through your website or through your brick and mortar. So because of this, it's more important than ever to have the ability to analyze the data. The slimmer the profit margins, the more critical this becomes to you. You also need insight as much as possible to understand what's selling, what's not, what's trending, what's your best and worst sellers. You need this to stay competitive, and it's certainly a challenge. And, of course, you need to deal with the accounting ends. So over the years, I've worked with many merchants who were cutting and pasting their orders into QuickBooks or Excel, or maybe manually rekeying them in an attempt to manage the business. However, when you get to a certain level of transactions, maybe 10, 15 orders a day, this really isn't feasible any longer. It's very difficult to grow your business this way, and honestly, it's almost impossible to stay on top of everything. I've also worked with merchants who's relied solely on bank statements to, book the revenue and expenses. Or maybe they're downloading the settlement files and they've developed a bunch of macros, to try to understand all the details that's in there. And again, that may work for a while, but at some point, it's not going to cut it either. And of course, not to mention the file formats tend to change, so there's your macros and all your hard work right with it. All these methods can be very time-consuming and difficult, if not just downright impossible. If you're booking your revenue just by the bank statements, how are you keeping track of your inventory and your selling trends and your return ratios? How do you know you're getting paid in full for all your orders? Or when you need to replenish inventory up at FBA, or even your in-house inventory for that matter. For those of you that's never dealt with Amazon, and maybe you're just now getting into this, you may have looked at the settlement files and the order files at least once. Even if you're a long-time merchant, you may have already looked at those files at least once. They contain a lot of details, but they're not necessarily very easy or to understand or work with. The merchants, when you guys get paid, they're paying out everything inclusive in your batches. So if you're selling on Amazon, Seller Central, as well as FBA, when they pay you, that's all combined. Payouts are typically every 2 weeks. There are some merchants that get paid weekly, or in rare cases, maybe daily, but of course that also means they've got a higher volume. The payout batches, this is one of my favorites, starts and ends on the same day, so that's always fun. And then of course don't forget all the various fees and the ins and the outs and the ins and the outs to go with them. So at the very minimum, you need the ability to reconcile the orders against the payments. I'm not saying that Amazon makes mistakes on a regular basis, but it certainly can happen. And then, of course, you've got other factors at play. Like if you don't upload your tracking numbers, what happens? You don't get paid. How do you find that out? If you're a smaller merchant, you might catch it, but if you're doing a substantial volume, chances are you won't. So pretty much every day or every week we get asked the questions, how do you reconcile Amazon? How do I know I'm getting paid for what I'm supposed to get paid? How do I manage the business, track my products, all that good stuff? Some of you may already be using QuickBooks or an order importer or an order manager, or maybe a combination of programs to try to audit your numbers. Of course, the challenge to reconcile your numbers against the Amazon files is pretty immense. So enter Communique for Seller Central. This program has made me a very happy QuickBooks Pro Advisor. For anybody that knows you, the happy dance happened several times through this process. So I'd asked Tom to develop a utility that would allow us to simply import Amazon settlement files and order files and perform just a quick reconciliation without pulling my hair out, without manipulating Excel files and macros and cutting and pasting and all that good stuff. So anything above and beyond reconciling orders and payments was, for me, a bonus. For merchants, it's, more than that. So not only does the program reconcile orders against payments, highlights discrepancies like I'd asked him, but he's given us insight on a lot of other areas. Bottom line on all this is if a merchant doesn't have the ability to truly understand what's going on in their business and manage it accordingly, they can quickly go from being profitable or breaking even to, worse, losing money. And I've seen it happen over the years, and it's sad. So I'm going to turn this back over to Tom so we can dive into the program. I certainly hope everyone has several of those wow moments like I did. So, Tom, take it away.
Thank you, Roxanne. I appreciate you giving us that background. All right, so let's get started here. This is our dashboard. And before we get started, let me explain. There's a lot of ground to cover, so we're just going to touch over some of the features in Communique for Seller Central. Our primary focus today is going to be on settlements, reconciliation, that sort of thing, because I think that's where we're going to get the most bang for our buck on this webinar today. There are 2 other webinars scheduled, and we will spend a little bit more time in the other webinars on some of the other things here. So as you can see, there's a dashboard here. Not all this information comes from Amazon. I mean, obviously sales, settlements, that sort of thing. But when you're looking at, for example, shipping summary and things of that nature, this relies on shipping data. FBA does provide shipping data, but your merchant fulfilled, you'll have to import that yourself. We do give you a way to be able to do that. So essentially, you'll get your orders and settlements from Amazon, but you can import your products, suppliers, your purchase orders, and your shipping to round out the data here of this application. Now, you all are probably getting the idea that this is a standalone app, and it's totally separate, and it is. It does not rely on any particular order management system in order to derive its results here. However, for those of you that are Stone Edge customers, we do have a sync data option here where you can actually import the stuff from your Stone Edge database. Over the course of the next few months, maybe even the next year, we'll probably add support for other OMSs. Okay, so I'll just hit up on some of the basic areas. You have your buyer section here. Although you can't market directly to Amazon customers, it is important to know who they are and where they come from and other insights like that so that you get an idea who your customer base is. The geographics and demographics are areas where you can see, what's selling and where is it selling. This is the entire order section. We'll be coming back to this later. Your products, suppliers. We've dedicated the entire FBA section here. The reason being is because, think of it this way, these reports in the FBA section are very similar to ones in the product section. The product section covers your warehouse and FBA together and features things like what's on order, what's in transit, that sort of thing. And the reason why we separate out FBA is that everything's filtered specifically and geared towards FBA replenishment. And the reason why we did it this way is because if you have an order in your warehouse and you're out of stock in the warehouse and you have a product at FBA, you can always do a non-Amazon fulfillment from FBA to fulfill a non-Amazon order, whereas you can't do it the other way around. In other words, if you're out of stock on FBA, you just don't sell. You can't fill it from your warehouse. So it's important to know what you need at FBA. This entire section does that. This very last section, the section we're going to spend a lot of time in, is our settlement section. These are all the reports that help us with the settlements that come in and doing the reconciliation. Let's go over to orders and let's look at our data feeds. And I am going to show a list here. And these are all of our orders. So essentially what you do is you import your order files from Amazon. Or if you're using the Stone Edge Data Sync, those will come in from your database. Once you have the orders here, you can come over to your settlements and import your settlements. And we've already pre-imported all this information here because it does take a while sometimes for some of these files to be imported and ready to use, and we don't have that much time in the webinar. So essentially what we're looking at is each settlement that's been imported. We're looking at the deposit date, and we can add a few extra options like, say, for example, start and end. And essentially this particular column right here where it says amount, that's the deposit amount to your account. One of the things that you can use this screen for is that you can come here and say, okay, well, my bank statement date is, let's say, from August 1st through August 31st as an example. Apply that. Let's see, deposit. Apply that. And so what you're looking for here is this. You have two settlements that are deposited in August. So you can actually take this and go back and look at your bank statement and see, or you should see these two deposits there. Now bear in mind, there's a little bit of lag time between the time the settlement is sent and the time your bank records it, so you might have a couple of day leeway either way, but this is a good way to be able to reconcile your settlements against your bank statements. Okay, so let's go over here to the settlement section. Let's look at accounting summary. This is probably one of the most important screens. And one of the key things that a lot of customers over the years have complained about is the way Amazon does its settlements. The settlements that they pay you and the start-end dates and things of that nature never seem to fall within a proper accounting period, okay? And so it was very difficult for them to figure out, okay, well, for the month of August, I mean, I'm trying to close out August, what did we get paid? I mean, what orders cleared and what adjustments and other transactions did they debit our account with? So it becomes very difficult relying on the settlement files to figure that out. So with the accounting summary screen, we took that pain away and said, okay, we're going to look at transactions based on the date. So for all these settlements that have been imported, let's go and look at all the transactions that settled last month.
This is really helpful, not to interject here, but at the end of the year, because especially if you have a merchant that does a high volume of sales, you know, when you're looking at December 28th, 30th, 31st, whatever, and your batches kind of end, early in December, like I said, the 28th, and then they pick up and they run through the January 10th or whatever, you need good numbers for the end of the year, for your taxes. And there wasn't ever a really good way to get this before. I mean, honestly, we guesstimated, you would get close, but there wasn't really a good way to get this number. So this was one of those moments where it was happy dance time.
Give me just a moment, if you would. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to the accounting summary. Last month, get all orders, adjustments, and transactions. So as you can see, there's 4,156. Now, that can span several different settlements. I mean, if you're getting paid, once a week, you can look at 5 or 6 settlements that actually post in that particular period. And all we're concerned about are all transactions that were settled for last month. So as you can see, we have 4,731. That's with your orders, adjustments, and other transactions. So this number down here at the bottom, $36,400.84, is actually the deposit amount. So we actually should be able to come back over here and look at our settlement feeds and see deposit, import. Should see that value. Oh, you know what? If we filter by the settlement itself, it should match. And I probably should have said it the other way. When you look at that number right there, it probably won't match the deposit amount of any particular settlement. And the reason being is because several different settlements likely comprise the results of that particular report. It's actually the opposite. So this right here comprises all the transactions that settled in August, which if we look at the settle ID, and I'm going to pull this up right here, we can actually group by this, and we can actually see there's 3 settlements that comprise all of August. So you actually, and then not all of the transactions for all these settlements are necessarily in August. Some could be in July, and some can be in September. But if you're looking at it from an accounting perspective, you're saying, okay, give me a list of all my transactions that settled for August so I can close out my August books. This is what these are right here. All right, so from here, let's go do a little searching, and we want to look at some other transactions. These are, and let me explain how adjustments and other transactions work. Okay, there are 3 major types of transactions in your settlement file. The first, obviously, are orders. So if you have merchant fulfilled, FBA, they show up as orders. Now, the next set are adjustments. Typically, adjustments are refunds that are given back to customers and things of that nature, and are tied specifically to an order. We do have a rule that basically either there's an order ID or an adjustment ID, and that qualifies as being an adjustment. Then the third set of transactions are what's called other transactions. And quite frankly, in the settlement file itself, it does say other. And what these are other charges that are not tied specifically to an order, but charged to your account. And that would be the third type. So we're looking at adjustments right now. I'm going to grab the description column and pull it up here. And now we're looking at all the transactions grouped by description. So you can see that this set right here, we have 1 transaction for a current reserve amount. We got 12 transactions right here that are for FBA inventory reimbursements. And so this kind of gives you a little bit clearer idea of what kind of adjustments are being either accredited or debited to your account, and based on what type of category they're falling under. And now we can go and take a look at, excuse me, these were others. Let's go back and look at adjustments. And let's sort by those. Okay. So now that we're looking at adjustments, we see that we have 31 for other transaction, and then we have 412 for refunds, and 108 for service fees.
Tom, I can't help it. Every time I see this and I run this, I've been testing this out, I still get these oh wow moments. You know, when you think about how many thousands of lines is in this file and how quickly you just ran through all these different scenarios to see these numbers, it blows my mind. I love it.
Thank you, Rox. Yeah, so Rox is making a good point, is that, you know, by using Communique for Seller Central, you can import your orders, import your settlements, and, you know, we've put it in, we've organized it in such a way it's very easy to access. There's plenty of filter options, and it gives you a great deal more illumination and transparency into your settlement file. You know, a lot of these things you may have suspected, and I'll give you an example. We can go back to the others. For example, this FBA inventory reimbursement, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ignore the date, which means that we want all other transactions, and the reason why I want to show you that is that some of these numbers get a bit bigger. So if you look at the FBA inventory reimbursements, it shows $422.14. Well, you know, there's several meanings for this. The FBA inventory reimbursement under the other section is typically reimbursements for products that are lost, destroyed, or whatever in the warehouse. If you see the same FBA inventory reimbursement in the adjustment section, that's typically refunds that Amazon has accepted but determined that the inventory is damaged or for whatever reason it's unsellable, and then they accept responsibility for it. Now, one of the issues that a lot of people have is that they can't get their book straight, and you can jump in anytime you want, Rox, and some of these transactions probably explain why it's difficult to be able to get a very precise number when accounting for these things.
Yeah, it gets quite interesting, and when we get into the reconciliation, I'll point a few things out. But if you guys aren't using any order managers or order importers, chances are you're just booking off that batch settlement, your batch payouts, and you're missing. And more so than I ever realized, actually, I always had a suspicion, but I didn't realize the true impact before all this. You're missing some pretty key things, and if you're getting reimbursed for inventory, you may want to be hitting your cost of goods account, reducing your COGS versus, say, increasing your sales, especially if you're in a state that gets taxed on gross sales numbers. You want to be very careful with that.
Okay, Rox mentioned the reconciliation. We do have a reconciliation section right here. Essentially what we do is we take the settlements that come in and with the orders, we try and match the settlements with the orders, and any discrepancies or a variance between the order and the settlement gets listed here. Now, we're going to search, and all we're interested right now are the variances only. In other words, we only want to deal with the variances. All those others which have settled and they match are of no concern. So let me go ahead and click on that.
I ran this last night on a database that had a couple 100,000 orders in this 60-day time frame, and they settle every week. And it was amazing because, once I ran all this, I only had to look at, say, I think it was 18 or 22 variances out of 150, 60,000 orders.
It certainly makes it a lot easier, that's for sure. Okay, so what you just saw me do here is I just clicked on the detail page. And so we're going to look at some of the details for these settlements of these orders. So this is the reconciliation page that basically lists this info here, but with some extra data. This is the product page, and what this does is shows the products that were settled with this. And what you can do is you can compare, this is the settlement for the products, you can actually compare that to the settlement from the orders and be able to look at both of these and think or see what is or any difference here. So if we're looking at both of these, we're saying, well, you know what, everything is identical on the product page. Let's go look at the transactions, and this is all the detail that comes in from the settlement. So for this particular order, every single charge or credit that was given to you for the order is listed here in this particular page. This adjustments page would be true too, so if you had adjustments that come in for this order, they'd be listed here as well. So we look at this right here, and so the the different item prices, and you can search by price, fee types, all types. So if we look at this entirely, we see that the net amount is $16.58, and that matches this right here, $16.58. And if we look at fee types, that's $9.10. The fee type right here is $9.10. We look at price type, $25.68. We got $25.68. Now the reason why I keep pointing to the footer here is you may have noticed is that the order ID is the same for both of these. Let me go ahead and add one more column here. We want to look at the deposit date. And as we can see, for this order, the order IDs are identical, but look at the deposit dates. Deposit dates are different. So what that means basically is that you had a partial payment with one settlement and then the remaining payment with another settlement. And you might be asking yourself, well, how's that possible, or how'd that occur? Well, if you look down here down the bottom, you'll see that everything here is identical except for, wait a minute, there it is, the warehouse. What I think happened here, what I think happened here basically is that Amazon took the order, could fill one product, but they may have internally shipped the other product to another warehouse, and it was in transit and they couldn't ship it. So what they did was they paid you for the one that they did ship, and when the product arrived at their other warehouse, they shipped it from there, then they paid you for the other one. Interesting, huh?
Yeah, very.
So, I mean, you wouldn't really know this if you did not have the ability to be able to look at your settlement this way. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the order section real quick, and we're going to search for the order. And this is the actual order. So I'm going to open this up and you can see that when the order came in, it came in for $25.68. That's the reason why I kept indicating that $25.68 in the footer. And if we look at the settlement info, this would be the last settlement ID and the last settlement date. This would be the total revenue, the actual fee, and the total net amount that was given to you for the order. So in actuality, even though that discrepancy shows up on the settlement side, we accumulated all of the deposits that were made for the order, and we come back and look over here and see that, in fact, it actually has balanced out. And we can look at any adjustment info, and there is none, so there's been no adjustments here. So you can actually go back to the order reconciliation, and if you want, you can just go ahead and reconcile, put the date today, and apply. Now you can add some comments. Yeah, you can add some comments. You can say, you know, it's a split payment, or whatever the detail you want to put. And then we'll just go and do this one here too. Split payment today, and then we'll go ahead and apply that, and it's been reconciled. So we can go back and search for it, ignore dates, variances, it's gone. Fully reconciled. Come back over here, let's refresh the search, and look at the reconciliation. There it is, split payment, date, reconciled.
That's an oh wow moment too, I've got to say. And one of the things too that you didn't see is when all this stuff was imported and you first ran the tool, is it auto reconciled everything with 0 variances. So you didn't have to go through, like if you're a QuickBooks user, you know, when you reconcile a bank account, you've got to click on both sides, go to the reconciliation, blah, blah, blah. It takes all of that and does it. It just does it for you, so you only have to look at and spend your time on where your variances are. So it saves, I just can't even tell you the amount of time it saves.
That's true. And because Rox makes a good point here. See, number of orders here are 11,265. So if we didn't do the auto reconciliation for you and double check the settlements against the orders, I mean, you'd have to go through all of these, and that's huge. So when you do your import, by the way, what I'm showing you here is a multi-file import. We do support a single-file import and a multi-file import. There are some differences between the two we're not going to go into right now because we don't have time for that. But the point is you could download, you know, you don't have to do this every day or every week. You can say, well, I want to reconcile once a month. You can download all your reconciliation files, put them in directory, point to multi-file, and then go ahead and do your import. And what we do by default is we reconcile all 0 variances, and we do add missing orders if you wish. Now, we're going to save that topic for another time, but there's a way, for example, if an order is paid through settlement, but it's not in your order section, that can be added automatically, and we'll talk about that another time, but that capability is in fact there. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and switch to another database and show you some other issues that we run across. Not that one, this one. Okay. All right, so let's go back and we'll go do order reconciliation and ignore dates, everything. And with this database, we found 10. And let me show you a few peculiarities that we found here, okay? So looking at this one, we're looking at a total revenue of $985, the net payment $598, the fees were $387. And oh, by the way, we do put a fees percent here. So the percent of the fees for this particular order was 39.29%. Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, if you're not using anything else, you know, if you're using just this product because it is standalone, when you import the orders, he actually has a little spot there where you can tell it what the cost of goods is, like 25% of the sale cost or 50% of the sale cost. So, you know, you can get a pretty good idea of where you stand at on gross margins and things like that.
Okay. All right, so we got a variance of $11.19. So let's go see where it could be. All right, so we're taking a look at the products. Let's compare to the others. Uh-oh. So what's happened here basically is you've gotten paid for one product, but looking at the order section, there's 4 of them listed here. So let's sort by item ID and SKU. And looking at this, we see something very peculiar. Look at this right here. The item ID is the same. The SKU is the same. The prices are the same. The costs, the fees. What's different? The warehouse. So what looks like happened here is that when the order was imported, It got filled from this FBA warehouse here and also filled from this FBA warehouse there. And one of the reasons why you only see a single payment here is likely because this is a split payment as well. Can't say for sure, but that certainly is the indication. But the real issue here is that we were expecting to be paid for 4 items. But how is it that we got 2 of them with identical item IDs and product SKUs? Well, the warehouse is different. And so as I said to you, it's likely what happened is this order got filled from 2 different warehouses. Now, I'm not sure exactly how FBA is going to fix this for you, but if you recall when we were talking about the FBA inventory reimbursements, it's very likely that FBA Amazon catches this through one of their audits, and the refund part actually comes back to you. If it's not tagged with an order ID, then it shows up in the other transaction. At least with the order ID, there will be an adjustment back to the order, and you'll be able to know that an adjustment's been made. But if it comes in as an other transaction, there's no way to tie it back to the specific order. Okay, so we saw a little extra issues here with reconciling. Let's take a look at this one right here. Again, the revenue is $713, net $213, the fees are $5, and the discrepancy to variance is $1520. That seems kind of high. What could that be? Well, you've been paid for 1 item here, but there are 2 items listed here. So again, this is likely a split payment. Although, if you notice, the warehouse is the same, so it makes you wonder why there is a discrepancy. If I recall correctly, there you go. I was having a senior moment there. But this is exactly why, as I said to you. Because what we do here basically is this. Settlements are based on order ID and item ID, not the settlement ID, okay? And so when we populate these screens down here in the bottom, we're looking at order ID and item ID because that's how the settlement's done. But if you look right here, you can actually see that this was paid with 2 different settlements, 371 and 171. So that explains where the discrepancy comes in here. So we can actually probably come over here, do a little search, search order ID. There you go. Now let's look and see what we have. Revenue, they match. So really that's the problem here. So it's the same problem we had in the other data file. All right, so at this point, I think, Rox, I think we've pretty much covered the settlement reconciliation part. Is anything else you think we need to show them?
No, I think that's pretty good. You know, if you guys are looking for bank statements, you can get your numbers here to do your manual entries inside QuickBooks and then do all your slicing and dicing of data right inside this tool. If you're using an order importer or an order manager, you know, as well, then the first thing you want to do when you're trying to reconcile, did you get paid? Is the numbers right in your QuickBooks? Why is your Amazon account too high or too low, or your AR account too high or too low, all that good stuff, is look at the source data first, apples to apples, which is going to be your Amazon files, your Amazon orders, your Amazon settlements, and filter out and deal with those discrepancies. Now, the cases we've showed you so far, the discrepancies have been pretty, you know, minimal, pretty, you know, not really material. We've found other cases where, you know, it's definitely been a material balance. If you want to be able to go through, see what's going on with your business, and then decide, is it a procedural change, your process, is it something going on with whatever system you're using, or is it time to maybe, you know, get on the phone to your Amazon rep? A lot of flexibility here.
And the last thing I want to show you before we finish off our slides and get to questions, recall earlier we were talking about the settlement accounting summary. If you look right here, FBA Inventory Reimbursement, for this particular series of settlements, it tallied up to almost $3,500. That's a huge amount.
It is, and this is just for one little snippet of time. So if this merchant was, you know, booking this and just hitting this to sales, well, the implications can be, you know, pretty large right there. It really has nothing to do with sales, most likely. You know, $2,300 on that one line item. So you also can get a lot of other good information there too. If you've got a product that's a problem, a warehouse that's a problem, you know, maybe you shouldn't ship to the West Coast or the East Coast. there's a lot of different other areas of the business that this helps shine some light on.
Well, Rox, you made a good point there, and what I'll do, say to finish up this right here, if you notice that this transaction type is other, if you recall the explanation I gave to you earlier, that when you have FBA inventory reimbursements and it falls under other transactions, it's likely because of damage or loss at the warehouse. But you made a good point about shipping to the West Coast. FBA does not assume any responsibility whatsoever for items that come to the warehouse damaged. And what I want to show you, we go out to our website here and go out to our forum, which I encourage everybody to do. We have a lot of content out here. We do have a topic on reconciliation, and it talks about FBA inventory reimbursements, and we explain what that means within the context of Communique. And there's a couple links here that takes you out to Amazon, and Amazon further explains what these are and how that works. So, this is important information to know. And it helps you, for example, in this situation, knowing that this is damage or loss inventory at the warehouse, that you would likely book this against what, Rox?
COGS.
COGS, yeah, instead of what, sales?
Yeah, account.
Yeah, you wouldn't add this to sales. You would book this against your COGS for your inventory. So knowing that will help you to balance your books a lot better. And there are many other things like that here. And short of parsing out your settlement file and looking at it to this kind of detail, it's almost impossible for you to figure out what these things are and where they go. Wouldn't you agree, Rox?
Oh yeah, you can't do this with macros.
All right. Yes. Okay, so let's go back to our slides here. Okay, roadmap. I'll hit this really quick. In the future, we're looking at doing purchase orders for your warehouse and FBA replenishment within Communique for Seller Central, and we'll also look to include supplier invoices, which will improve visibility with your accounts payable. First quarter of next year, we're looking at Enterprise Edition, which is going to be MS SQL Server compatible with enterprise level features. We're going to be building what's called an auto sync for Amazon. Currently, you have to import your order files and your settlement files. We're looking at maybe automating that process so you don't have to do that. It just works in the background for you. And then, a question mark here, other marketplaces and shopping carts. We'll be looking at that in the future. Right now, our focus is on Amazon because that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that's the one area that we consistently hear from customers that, just seems to be rather vague and nebulous for them, and they want to get some more visibility into that. Okay, so availability and pricing. Okay, the Communique for Seller Central will be available for downloads September 16, 2014. The trial is available. It has very limited functionality. What we're doing with the trial essentially is that we'll allow you to import some orders and import some settlements. And if you don't get that wow factor and say, this is for me, I really need to see this kind of visibility, then the rest of the stuff really doesn't matter. So you'll know real quick. The price, the standard license is $4.95 for single user. Site license will be $7.95. Multi-user site license, there's no limit to the number of users. And then the enterprise license will be determined when available. Okay, so to learn more, you can contact sales@altarian.com. You can visit our forum at communique.vbulletin.net. And of course, for accounting assistance, you can speak to Rox at consulting4qb.com. And for some of you out there, I know you are QuickBooks advisors or other accounting professionals. If you're interested in our resellers and referral program, please contact sales@altarian.com. Be more than happy to talk to you and explain more about that. Okay, now we're going to open this up to questions. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. And
here I see for QuickBooks Pro Advisors that's on the line, this gives you, like I do, you can either recommend, this is another tool to recommend to your clients when your e-com clients call you up and they're pulling their hair out, or it gives you an opportunity to add a service into your business as another revenue stream and offer this, as a service to your clients so you can alert them to details and, do the books. I mean, it gives you a lot of flexibility there. I love it.
Okay. All right, so let's see. The first question is, do you need Communique or does this work independent of it? It works totally independent. This Communique for Seller Central is totally independent of any order management system. Obviously, since it's designed for Amazon, you need to use the Amazon data files like the orders and the settlements, but you don't have to be a Stone Edge user. You don't have to have any kind of order management system in order to be able to take benefit of this. Now, speaking of which, You know, if you want to make an apples-to-apples comparison, I recommend that you run the Amazon orders through and then do the settlements from Amazon, because quite frankly, the orders that they report to you and then the settlements that they pay, that's the best way to know if there's any discrepancies. If you're using an order management system and you're importing or using some other third-party import tool or whatever the case may be, well, you know, it can be subject to corruption. And when you compare your order management system to Amazon, it may not compare straight, you know, apples to apples, so to speak. And let me give you another example. Most of the order management systems are geared more towards web carts and not necessarily towards the markets. When Amazon sends over an order, it breaks out each item on each line, tax, shipping, other fees, whatever, you know, the sale price by each item. When that comes over to an order management system, typically things like sales tax and shipping is aggregated to the order level because that's how it's done on a web cart. So my point to you is that when you import into an order management system, you kind of lose that just a little bit, and sometimes it becomes a little difficult to make a straight comparison. So, but on the other hand, I had another customer tell me, you know what, in order for us to find out if there's any problems in our order management system, be able to fix and rectify it, it was a good idea to import that data and then compare the settlements to that to the original order management data, so that you can see if there's any problems with the order management system. So 6 of one kind, half a dozen the other. But I do believe if you want to reconcile these things properly, you have to make an apples-to-apples, meaning Amazon settlements with Amazon orders. All right. So the next question is the StoneEdge integration set up to pull in actual product costs? Yes, it is. And the way the product table works is that every time you synchronize, it will look to see if the product exists in the database. If it does, then it will update with whatever information is in StoneEdge. If it doesn't exist, it will add it in directly. So are there any other questions? Okay, let's see. All right, so I have some SEOM and QB right now. I don't have any individual FBA orders in SEOM. In order to have all of my data synced completely, do I have to import my FBA orders in SEOM? No. No, you don't. What this person is asking is that currently Merchant Fulfilled is in their order management system, but not the FBA. Actually, what you can do is you can import in your StoneEdge data in, and then go grab your FBA files from Amazon directly and import those in separately. When we built this, we built that with that idea in mind, that you don't necessarily have to use an order management system, and if you do use an order management system, you still have the capability of pulling orders in from other sources. So no, you don't. So you can actually use,
because you can also see, you know, your data. You can look at just Merchant Fulfilled, you know, just your Seller Central orders, and your sales and your fees, and then your FBA sales and fees. So you can look at it together, of course, and then you can look at it separately. And again, you really have to watch those margins, because, you know, your best seller may not be, you know, where you're actually making any money. You could possibly be losing money there.
Yeah, so essentially, you know, we made this kind of independent in the sense that, you know, you may say, okay, for historical purposes, import in from my OMS, and moving forward, I want to import the stuff in directly from Amazon. You can do that too. So that's really up to you how you want to do that. But I would recommend, as I said, you know, if you're moving forward, starting fresh, you know, do the settlements with the orders that come from Amazon. Rox, you pointed out earlier that when you did it like that, you had fewer variances.
I do it like that first because I want to see apples to apples. That's important in my world. And then I want to see against the order management system, because that's almost just as important, because that's typically what's feeding into QuickBooks and the numbers that people are going by. And, you know, they see variances there, and when we make adjustments, we want to have a much, you know, a better educated set of adjustments than just making a kind of a guess, you know. So I think both are very important.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Well, if there are no more questions, I want to thank everybody for attending our webinar today. As I pointed out that we should have this video up by tomorrow, and you're welcome to go back and look at it again at your own leisure. Don't forget, we do have 2 more webinars coming up, one for this Thursday and the following Tuesday of next week. If you have any more questions, feel free to send them to tech support at Altarian.com, T-E-C-H, support@Altarian.com. You all have a nice day, and thank you for attending our webinar.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.